the bombs began to fall. Now where were you, my dear? Did you think a plane would come and save you from this wreck? I'm sorry, but you were wrong. Let's hop a train, get out of here. There's but one left that'll take us where we need to go. We all knew that it was gonna end this way, so hold my hand and there'll be nothing to fear. If you're afraid, we'll get some beer. If you're still afraid, well then we'll get some whiskey too. And we'll drink until we can't remember our own names. Smash those bottles against the remains of this machine. So when the sun falls to the sea and everything we thought we had is gone, may we wake up bathed in a glorious radiant dawn. Pick ourselves up, move right along.
Hey folks, how you doing? This Garret Schuelke here again with another special two-part episode of the Garret Schuelke podcast, The COVID Life, Part 2. And this time around, we got 3 more guests. We got writer Robert Dean, comedian Scott Ryan, and another writer who also is very dear to me, Jim Zoetewey. Yep, and also featuring more great music from basically a lot of great artists I've discovered online, one way or another, about COVID. There are either songs about COVID-19, pandemics in general, or the apocalypse. Because, you know, if you're going to do a podcast about COVID-19, what better songs to get, right? Well, as I mentioned in the first episode, in case you didn't listen to that one, which, you know what, you probably should you know what, for any podcast in general, you should probably listen to part 1 of an episode before you listen to part 2 or 3 or any parts after that. But anyway, just like in the previous episode, I wanted to talk to past guests of this podcast about their life under this pandemic. You know, when did they realize that this was going to be a problem? How has their life changed since? Oh, and my personal favorite question. Excuse me. Excuse me, folks. This is me just totally riffing it, but then again, that's not really much different from previous podcasts. Anyway, my favorite question, you know, how do you imagine a post-COVID world? And, well, again, as I said, like previous episode, this was recorded throughout April and the beginning of May, and I asked a lot of the same questions and perhaps bring up some same topics conversation with other guests, so don't worry, it's all fresh, it's all good. But you may hear some repeated material, so deal with it, I guess. This is a free podcast, folks, come on. Anyway, before I mess up this intro with my awkwardness and my terrible riffing any more than I already am, let's get on with it, shall we? Here we go. Alright, folks, our next guest is writer Robert Dean, who has just woken up, actually. Robert? Yeah,
woke up from, I slept, I think I laid down at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's almost, probably 8 now, and I'm just getting back up. Because at this point, time is illusion.
Yeah, it's a perfect reason to wake up, too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I woke up, and then my best friend, who I live with, was like, I'm ordering pizza. I was like, great, that's one less thing that I have to worry about tonight. So, I unfortunate human/sloth these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, indeed it has. We're 2 months, in fact.
Is that 2 months already?
Well, nearly. I think the pandemic here in America was announced mid-March, right?
Yeah, because I just got back from Los Angeles doing TV show stuff, and I was supposed to go to Disneyland, February 25th or 26th, and then I ended up not going because my allergies were so bad, and like when I was there, I was joking with I had to go to the urgent care and was like, I don't have the coronavirus, do I? He was like, no, you have allergies. I was like, cool, because I definitely have allergies. So, we got back, and then next thing I know, here we are.
Yeah, so that's actually a pretty good segue into my first question here. What was there a moment that you realized that this pandemic was gonna be a bad thing? You know, like an shit moment for you?
Yeah, because when it first started happening, I was one of the people like, what the fuck, this is the flu, because we canceled South by Southwest here in Austin. And I was like, what the fuck? Because it was all baby steps. It was just people getting sick. We didn't know the severity. We didn't know, like, anything about it. And I was like, what the fuck? And so they canceled South by Southwest, and all the bands and all the bars and all the, like, venues were, like, banding together and like, fuck that, we're going to do it unofficial. You guys are going to close our festival down that we depend on tons of money. Then we'll just do it ourselves. And it was going to be called, like, Unofficial by Unofficial or something like that. This place is a scrappy little town when it comes to that stuff. So once they started planning all these unofficial shows and, like, it seemed like everything was going to pop off, but then we saw South by got canceled, then the Houston Rodeo got canceled, then San Antonio Fiesta got canceled. Within a week, the state of Texas lost $1 billion in revenue, and like $200 million specifically just for the city of Austin. And once all the venues and then everything just started shriveling up, and then we started seeing things get more surreally. It was just getting more surreal. It's like watching the news and being like, I guess this isn't like the flu. And then it was that moment of just being like, what the fuck are we dealing with? It's like a Ray Bradbury novel. And everything you had expected was completely untrue. Like, I had friends that were supposed to come crash, and this year was going to be like filled with so many friends from around the country. I was so excited for this year's South by, and no one ended up coming. And my friend Carly Drifter was supposed to come to my house and crash for a couple of days, and she could have. Shout out to Carly. But it's just, once that happened, then I started staying home from work and haven't been to work in over 2 months, which I don't mind. So.
I just realized I totally fucked up the intro there, but yeah, we're talking about your life under this COVID-19 pandemic. So how about we get into how this has affected your personal life? You just mentioned that you haven't worked in 2 months.
Well, no, I mean, I'm working. I'm just working from home. I mean, I write for professionally, so I have 3 different streams of income. I generally don't talk about this in interviews just for the sake of the illusion of the Robert Dean thing, but I copyright and manage for a tech company here in Austin. Then I freelance for anybody in town or anybody in the country who needs their like sites written or whatever. I freelance work for them, and then I have all the Robert Dean stuff where I'm writing articles and doing op-eds and all the other stuff. And so it's like 3 constantly moving balls in the air. And for the most part, like, I'm still getting paid to be at my job to do their work. And then beyond that, freelance is dried up completely, but I'm still doing a ton of Robert Dean op-eds, different stuff. I have a piece dropping with Mike.com this week or next week about the border. I was there right before Christmas. And so it has like a 3,000-word feature. So that's coming. And then I became the co-editor of Last Real Indians and Chase Iron Eyes, who is probably the country's famous Native American activist. And he was the guy that's like, he's the spokesperson for Standing Rock for Leonard Peltier, who's a political prisoner. And I have carte blanche to that audience. And so I get to make decisions if we want to publish something, and I can publish really whatever I want.
Yeah,
then,
what's the Last Real Indians about? What's the website's
the Last
objective?
Real Indians essentially became, it started out as this place for like indigenous purpose and indigenous news and like what was going on with that community. But after Chase and I had become friends, we met. I was working on a story about Leonard Peltier, and we got friendly, and then we started talking, and we realized that we had the same like political beliefs, and he really liked my writing, and so he asked me, he's like, will you do some writing on behalf of Last Real Indians, because I want to open it up, man. He's like, I want to become like a progressive place for people to get their news. He's like, I want it to be progressive voices. I want it to be not just about Indian culture, but I want to mix our stuff in with the mainstream. And so we've been doing that, and I've been working on Facebook, and I've been writing about an article a week for them. And then it's cool. You see a lot of ugly America in the comment sections, but you kind of let it go.
It's one way to put it.
And and I started writing for Cleaver and Blade, which is a big chef apparel company. They basically were just like, if you want to just write about food culture, anything involving kitchen, anything basically in that world, you can write whatever you want. And so I've been doing some stuff for them, and then I still have, my connections at other places. So I've got like 7 open doors where I can put something, if I have something I'm working on, but I'm always trying to chase new stuff. The problem is right now is a lot of editors had their budgets slashed, so I think I had Vice pretty much locked up on a story, and then he came back to me and was like, we don't have a budget, man. He's like, I'm not going to be taking anything from freelancers. And like, it was very small for like the next 3 months. So no editors, even ones that I have good relationships with, are taking anything right now.
All right. Well, Robert, I have to say too is that out of all the past guests I've interviewed so far, you're actually the first one who's a bona fide fellow writer. And one thing I was...
Bona fide what?
Bona fide writer.
Oh, okay.
Jesus, connection. But,
that's cool, man.
Yeah, okay, you already talked about, you already talked about, how it's been going with freelancing and your new publishing ventures. But, how has the pandemic affected your writing personally? Like, has there been any change in your habits or outlook?
Oh, God, yes, there's been change in habits. I mean, I have been doing nothing but writing. Like, I have to write about other stuff because, like, that's why Cleaver and Blade is so important to me right now, because it's a chance to not write about pandemic news. It's a chance to not write about supply chains and, fucking idiot patriots in cosplay gear thinking that they have big dicks when they don't. They're just these fucking tiny baby men and tactical vests when they couldn't hack it as a cop or an actual fucking GI. But no, my routine is completely fucked. I will write in the middle of the night. I don't really have a pattern anymore. Like, I used to have a lot of defined processes, but we're getting up in the middle of the night. We're not doing things that we used to do in terms of I would get up, go to work, come home, whatever I had to do, and then around 9, 10 o'clock I would start writing for my stuff. And then now it's just everything's out the window. Some days I'll wake up and then start writing, doing day job stuff, and then I'll pepper in a little bit of my things. Or some days I'll sleep till 4 o'clock in the afternoon because I didn't go to bed till 6. There is no routine on my part. But the only thing is I kind of got over when we first had to come home and had to stay in the house. I was struggling with being productive. It was this weird emotional wall where I couldn't get anything done. I kept trying, I kept forcing, and nothing was clicking. And then once I kind of got over that and something just clicked with me. I had a woe is me moment, and then I was like, no, man, fuck this. I was like, you thrive under pressure. You thrive under shitty circumstances. This is what I've always dealt with. This is what I'll always deal with. life to fucking focus and get shit done. I don't expect anyone else in the whole world to look at the thing like that way. I do because I'm an erotic fuck who this is just my personality. So for me, if you leave me alone, just let me run because I will crank out a ton of shit.
And, okay, so you're writing articles. Anything in regards to fiction?
No, not really, man. I kind of made this decision a while back. So I've been working on a book called The Hard Roll for the last 5 years. And I have an agent who really likes me. And he has given me R&Rs, which is like read and revise. He's given me 2 of them, and he just gave me a 3rd one at the beginning of this. He just like pointed out these like logical flaws and things I needed to fix. And I'm eventually going to do it. I'll probably end up looking at it in 2020 or 2021. To be honest with you, man, I kind of like had this come to Jesus moment like a year and a half ago where despite liking fiction to read it, I just realized that my career and what I do and everything else about me is essays, op-eds, and journalism. Like, me injecting myself into the work or me being a casual observer or my opinion is just what I've built my career on this point. Like, everything I've done, anything that's got any juice, like, yeah, my bulk of my novels sold okay. They didn't light the world on fire, but they did okay. The Red 7 sold probably 2,000 copies, which in book world is fantastic. But it's just, it doesn't have the emotional heft for me, and I just feel like myself when I'm writing about politics, food, music, culture, religion, that kind of stuff. Like, that just feels normal to me. Versus, I always feel like with fiction, I don't know, it just doesn't feel the same. So, I'll probably rework on that book sometime next year. And then, but once that's in my hands, I don't foresee myself writing fiction for a good couple of years unless I get some wild creative streak. I just don't see it happening for at least 5 years.
All right. Okay, let's talk about your home environment. You're still in Austin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what has Austin been like since this pandemic hit, from your perspective?
I mean, we're the city of good little white liberals, so we paid attention, and I call it the Vanilla Village. It's the whitest place I've ever lived in my life. But it's everybody took it super serious here, man. I mean, our infection rate is very, very low. My ex-wife is a COVID nurse on like the hottest unit in the city of Austin, the capital of Texas. She is taking care of people, and she's like, yeah, we're flattening the curve, but you know, like what Austin does and how serious we take it and how low our numbers are is not reflective of the assholes in Texas. And so by Abbott opening the state back up, it challenges the work that most of, like, Texas as a whole, most of the cities, because the thing that most people don't understand about Texas is that the cities themselves, most of the major ones, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, and even the Valley, they all look democratic, and they're all extremely progressive. So we all took it very seriously. That's why Texas's numbers are low. But once you kind of get out into these, like, areas out west or out east and different stuff like that, it's not going to look good, man. We're going to see Georgia really turn people's eyes open to how horrific this shit is when you don't control it. I mean, it sucks, dude. It totally sucks. I don't want to be stuck in the house. There are a million things. Like, dude, I'm making a fucking TV show, and I can't go to Los Angeles to get shit done. But I'm stuck in the house. All my shit's on ice. All I can do is just be patient and hope that it works out in the long run. Because in terms of, like, how Austin did it, Austin was great. Austin has been great. We've been following the rules. Everyone's wearing masks. People keep a social distance from each other. You see assholes storming the Capitol steps. But those people don't live in town. Those are all fucking idiots from other parts of the state that drove in just so they could wear their stupid tactical vests and pretend like they were G.I. Joe for an afternoon.
Actually, that's a good jumping off point, since, as you may remember, I am from Michigan, and I live here. And I'm sure that you've seen the headlines about how our state's been doing.
Well, I wrote about it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Latest piece?
Yeah, it's for Last Real Indians. If you go to Last Real Indians, I think it's called America the Broken in Real Time. It's basically just about like cosplay patriots thinking. I have this issue understanding how can you be like defend the thin blue line, and like you don't fucking stand for the flag, you don't kneel and all that other bullshit. Those are your two main talking points, but yet the very same people that you pretend to respect and want to work alongside, you're going right against them with guns. Like, which is it, man? Are you like the whole white male middle class fucking guy that's obsessed with guns and a bunch of patriotic bullshit? I'm still trying to wrap my head around like what that personality is, because they just don't make sense anymore. They're not a conservative. They're not a libertarian. They're just this like American terrorist that's so full of their own bullshit. It's unbelievable. Like when they're like, well, we can't open up the economy and all this. I'm like, bro, if you want to fucking get things taken care of, look to other countries and how they're reacting to this. We have the shittiest response, and we're the biggest country in the fucking world. So I think we should look internally on why our government has repeatedly failed us, let alone why you can't go to Supercuts.
Yeah, well, how has the quote unquote protest been in Texas? Is there any significant difference between them, Michigan, and other states?
No, I mean they're all the same guy. They're the same paper thin, fragile male with his entire identity being semi-racist or racist comments, this like maniacal fear of government. It's like, dude, just stay home. We'll figure this thing out. Like they're like, we gotta open up the economy. This is bullshit. No one's dying. You're like, dude, my friend's mom died. My ex-wife saw some really horrific shit. Like, we don't understand what we're dealing with. All we know is that we're trying to do our best. But when people pretend like they know more than scientists, it's fucking ridiculous, because you don't. You're just a guy. You're this guy who fucking works a regular 9-to-5 job, and your joy out of life is listening to like Mark Levin and thinking that your political ideology is in tune with the rest of America, when it's not. You are not. Why is there? It's not tens of thousands of people storming the streets. It's like 1,000 dudes that have guns. Like, how do we not accept that this is fucked up? It's unbelievable to me that people are like, what's wrong with you? You're fucking protesting a virus. And they're like, you're tyrannical government. It's like, dude, the deficit is bullshit. The deficit is this weird, invisible number that makes no sense to anything. It is what it is. It's never going to go get lesser, it got less under certain people, and fine. But it's an invisible number that necessarily makes no fucking sense. And you can cite inflation and all this shit, but regardless of what it is, we've never been in a situation like this, and how we react to and take care of the people should be tantamount to how we understand and move forward, because we can't go to shows, we're not going to bars, we're all cooped up in our house, we have like 2 people we can talk to, and it's not changing. It sucks. It fucking sucks, but being some neckbeard, with his fucking stuff he bought at the gun shop, feeling like he's ready to storm the beaches in Normandy. Look, bro, you want to do that shit? There's a fucking plane in an office of a place that'll drop you right off in the middle of fucking whatever shitty country you want to go to, because there's a war zone. There's a war zone somewhere right now that you can go fucking hang out in.
All right, and in our last podcast when you and I spoke in Chicago, in the before all this happened, we talked about how you previously lived in New Orleans and how you were born and raised in Chicago. From your perspective, out of the 3 cities, Austin, New Orleans, Chicago, which city do you think has had the best response to this pandemic?
I mean, I think they're all different responses in respect to the people. It's not the responses. Because, like, Lori Lightfoot is doing a fantastic job. She had got into some shit throughout becoming the mayor and really, like, showing who she was. She has done a phenomenal job of being the voice of Chicago and being out on the street, fucking out there with her people. That I will attest to. New Orleans, Latoya Cantrell is trying to be that same kind of leader. And here's the Steve Adler has the easiest job, because the people of Austin are like, yeah, that's fine, whatever, we trust you. it's just a blind, okay, we don't want to go outside. It's just, there's too many fucking college-educated white liberals here, so they're like, yeah, we'll stay in, it's fine. And those other two are much more working class, they're hand-to-mouth, and she faces, each of those women face much more challenges in terms of getting respect and understanding that there are people that don't want to sit in the house, and they will speak their minds freely and do everything they can to, like, go to beaches and to get out and to be in the quarter and do all that stuff. So it's like, trying to compare them are apples and oranges, but I see three leaders not wanting to get their people drugged through the mud, and they're doing the best thing that they can. I mean, it's not like these are three terrible cities. These are three major economic drivers in this country. You lose those three cities, those are fucking vacuous black holes that will ruin the American economy. And all they're trying to do is make sure their people are safe and that they have a situation that they can control, because, again, we don't have any kind of prepared response, or we don't have a timeline of when things are going to be better or different yet.
All right, Robert. Very last question here, then I'll let you go for the evening. Ready for this big one?
Sure.
You're going to love this one, man. Do you personally have any predictions on what the near future is going to look like? What a post-COVID-19 world will look like?
Well, like when people are like, oh, these are how the new McDonald's rules are going to be, and there's these like yellow dots for people where to stand when they're waiting in line. That shit's going to go away. People like, it's like that thing when you get a job and they're like, yeah, you got to wear gloves. Every day you got to wear gloves. That's the mandate. Boss says got to wear gloves. 2 weeks later, no one's wearing gloves. That's just, accept that shit. That's just going to be the norm. Like, everyone's like, we're all going to be wearing face masks for like 2 years. No, we're not. Once we're let out of the house, it's basically going to become a situation of herd immunity. That's realistically what this is going to have to come down to. And I'm all for taking the smartest, most patient approach possible, but I'm just a realist and know that that's just what's going to end up happening, because as many like good fucking people as are paying attention to the rules, they're going to eventually get tired. Summer's like right here. People are going nuts, but they're stuck in the house. They can't go do fun things. They can't see their friends. Like, I went over to a friend's house and we sat 6 feet apart from each other and just shot the shit. It was like the best, because I can't see my friends in months. I'm sick of looking at Zoom. And, but I ultimately think that this is a good thing for American politics, because I fucking hope that people look at their leadership and go, where were you when this shit was going down? Were you with us or were you against us? Look at voting records. Look at everything that those people slipped in. I don't care if you're Nancy Pelosi, fucking Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer. I don't care if you're Dan Crenshaw, AOC, whatever. Look to see who was by your side, what their voting records was, and ask questions. Why weren't you supporting the American worker? Why weren't you setting safety nets in place to help us versus help corporations? Fuck corporations. Fuck Wall Street. Those mean nothing to us. And when you punish us because of their like losing money, that's the capitalist system that's fucking broken. So I hope that we take stock of who's representing us and what they were doing on our behalf. Like, this blind allegiance to fucking capitalism and like that you got to get back to work. No, man, fuck all those people. If they cared about their companies, they'd be paying out of pocket. They'd be like telling their shareholders, sorry, man, we're taking an L this quarter. You're just going to lose a little bit of money when it comes trading time. That's just the way it should be. But they're greedy fucking pigs. And I'm hoping that we'll see a conscious America that what demands answers and wants to know. Because at this point, all of the things that are progressive ideals, we need to have those. Like, do I think Joe Biden's going to be fucking Trump? No, I don't. Because Joe Biden is a fucking wet blanket. And he's got no shot against it. Trump is going to do his Trump shit and walk all over him. And it's like, Joe Biden is such a bad candidate that a fucking pandemic is not going to make him beat Donald Trump. And I sincerely hope that we learn a lot of lessons from this and that we move forward in a way that makes practical sense, but also opens people's eyes up to why are we paying these people the enormous, stupid salaries that we are? They're not representative of us. They're representative representatives of interest that are outside of us. So if you're not on the ground level, fuck you. I got no use for you.
Huh. And I think we're good here, man. Yeah, Robert Dean, thank you for taking time to come back on the podcast. It was great hearing from you, man.
Yeah, anytime. Anytime you want to talk about long-winded rants, I'm always here.
Yeah, is there anything you would like to plug? And whether it's websites or if there's any way for people to perhaps help you if you need it, like say a Patreon or virtual tip jar?
Oh man, you spend that money on your local. I'm lucky enough that I'm still making money. You spend that money in your community. Fucking give that to bartenders that are working that shift, making to-go drinks, or to the tips to the person behind the counter at the burger joint that you're hitting up. Give that money to them. I don't need that shit. That's where that money should go. But if you want to follow along, please go to either Instagram, literally Robert Dean, or find me on Facebook. It's Robert Dean's World. I'm a giant covered in tattoos, and you'll see a ton of memes and a ton of politics talk and videos of stand-up. I try to keep it balanced between talking shit and keeping you laughing.
All right, Robert. I guess it's time to end this, man.
All right. Thanks for calling, man.
Yeah, good talking to you, and hopefully someday we'll talk under vastly better circumstances.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. It's just a matter of time. I'll be in Chicago soon enough, and I'm sure you love the town, so I'm sure it won't be twisting your arms to come and hang out.
Hell yeah. All right, I'll talk to you then, okay, dude?
Take it easy, man.
Yep, have a good night. Take care of yourself.
Take it easy.
Yep.
All right. Everybody's crazy. Everybody's sick. Nobody's working. The whole world's gone to shit. And if there's one thing that I know is absolutely true, the rich will still be rich, and we're all gonna get screwed. Some folks say that Tom Hanks is a pedophile, and those same folks say Rita Wilson too. Well, I don't know, man, that theory sounds a little wild. The rich will still be rich, and we're all gonna get screwed. Everybody's crazy, hoarding groceries. I had to get a Bud Day, 'cause you bought all the TV. Well, there's a lot of shitty assholes just like you, but they're all soaking wet, and Tiger King's the truth. Some folks say that Tom Hanks is a pedophile, and those same folks say Rita Wilson too. Well, I don't know, man, that theory sounds a little wild. The rich will still be rich, and we're all gonna get screwed. Everybody's crazy.
All right, everyone. Our late night talk. By late night, I mean it's 10:52 here in Michigan. What time is it where you're at, Scott?
It is 8:52 where I'm at. We're 2 hours behind you in Colorado.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I had you call me first as opposed to me trying you, because it could get pretty confusing.
Yeah, definitely. I've gotten in the habit of whenever I'm talking to people in Michigan, I'll just say their time, usually, because I'm used to it over here in Colorado, but obviously, like, most of my family and friends and stuff are still back in Michigan.
Yep. All right, folks, we're talking to formerly Michigan-based comedian Scott Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, how you been doing, brother?
I've been doing good. They are opening up a lot of spots in Colorado, so we'll see how that goes over the next couple of weeks. Just been, dealing with this quarantine, and playing a lot of Civilization and watching a lot of 90 Day Fiancé. Smoking a lot of weed. That's been pretty much my life the past month.
Yeah, you're in the perfect place for that, too.
Right.
Yep. Well, as I said in my message, I would like to talk to you for a little bit about your life under this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's start off with the first question. Was there a moment when you realized that this pandemic was not going to turn out well? Like an oh shit moment?
Well, I think you and I both kind of pay more attention to politics than probably the average person. So, I'd heard about it months before in China and everything, and kind of it spreading to Iran and North Korea and all of these places. But you have these every couple of years where it's bird flu or it's SARS, and it always just kind of disintegrates into nothing. And I think when my work said that they weren't allowed to have anybody inside anymore, that was a moment where it was really like real to me, where I was like, oh my God, like we're, kind of massively changing the way we structure our society and everything. So yeah, probably that moment. Or do you mean the handling of it? Or
No.
do you mean like that?
No, like
okay.
a moment where like you realize like, oh shit.
Yeah, probably that. I definitely had those couple of days. Like, I think none of us knew how it was going to turn out when it first started. Like, I had my car full of gas. I was like stocking up on, beans and pasta and things where I'm like, if the grocery store's closed down, I'll be all set. Like, so yeah, no, it definitely seems to have kind of leveled out, at least for the moment, but it definitely did get crazy for a little bit.
Yeah. My personal experience was I realized in mid-March when you're gonna love this. I went on a weekend trip to Toronto to see one of my favorite musicians, Matthew Good, and Canada was freaking as shit over there, and it kind of made me realize like, okay, this is not gonna turn out well.
Okay, so Michigan was behind Canada as far as their response to it?
No, it was about the same, but it didn't really hit me until I was in Canada and I was seeing like the Canadian media freak out over it.
Yeah.
And the show I went to saw Matthew Good. Great show, by the way. But like 30 minutes after it ended, I was at a place called Pizza, which is like Canadian Sbarro's. Yeah, 30 minutes after that, he canceled his entire tour.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Yep.
That was definitely a big thing, too, like when, shows started shutting down here and, like, all of that sort of stuff. It definitely made it more real as well.
Yep, and the rest of the weekend I was going to some smaller shows, some smaller bars. Yeah, those all got promptly canceled, too, during that weekend. So,
yeah.
And I guess the only upside to all this was that coming back to America, fastest I've ever gone through security and customs, because there's literally no one in the line.
Yeah, it was a weird thing too. Like the timing of it, I was kind of in the same situation because I had right now my girlfriend lives in Las Vegas, and so I would take time off to go see her. And I'd actually taken time off where she had come to my house, or my apartment. And so I'd taken a week off of work. And, like, the day I dropped her off, it was like there was people walking around in masks. And, Colorado was passing new regulations and stuff. And then it was like the day I got back to work, they were having a big work meeting where they're like, okay, everybody's hours are getting like majorly cut and people aren't allowed inside anymore and stuff. So I kind of had the same experience where it coincided with like a trip or something like that, and added an extra level of weirdness to it for sure.
Yep. And, all right, so, I guess, what is your day job? You don't have to, give a name or anything, just occupation.
Yeah, I'm a sushi chef.
A what chef?
Sushi.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh, I didn't know you knew how to do that.
Funny enough, when I moved to Colorado, 6-7 months ago, I was in a situation, my car had broken down right before I moved, so I didn't have a car when I got here, and I was, scrambling looking for a job, and I ended up going to this sushi place, and and it was a place I could get to from the bus. It was, the reason why I originally picked it, and I was just like, can I be a dishwasher? Can I be a server? Whatever. But these people were really awesome, and they trained me in doing sushi, which is cool because it's a talent I can take going forward now. And they're also, I don't know, you always roll the dice with small business owners. And the place I work for is actually, pretty legit.
Okay, so how has your job been affected by this?
Well, we're going back to normal hours this week, actually, but still only, I believe, 15 people are allowed in the restaurant at a time. Prior to that, we were just doing, takeout orders. So, pretty majorly affected, but also, I'm not going to lie, I had saved up a little bit of money, and I kind of been enjoying the time off, so I haven't been that concerned with it.
Oh, so you have had time off over this?
Yeah, I work at this point. Starting next week, I'm back to normal hours, but I've been working 2 days a week for the last month and a half.
All right, and where are you located in Colorado?
Colorado Springs.
I think I've heard of it. Is it close to Denver?
Yeah, I mean, it's about an hour and a half from Denver. It's a weird spot for me personally to be because, I came out with friends to come to Colorado, but I didn't know, we were looking for a place, and Colorado Springs, for a variety of reasons, made the most sense. But it's basically, it's Air Force Base and a bunch of, fundamentalist churches.
The perfect place.
Basically what Colorado Springs is made up out of.
Yeah, military bases, churches, that is the perfect place for you.
Right, yeah. I'm definitely the weirdness of constantly seeing, military and drones. They do a lot of drone exercises out here and stuff.
Really?
It's kind of trippy, yeah.
Yeah, so what has the environment been like in Colorado Springs since the pandemic started?
I think weirdly enough, it's been more normal than Michigan, for sure.
That's a hard bar to reach there. Comes to weirdness.
Yeah, I know. I feel like Michigan kind of in a lot of ways became the epicenter of this in the U.S. Michigan or probably New York as far as news coverage, and I know you guys have had a lot of those protests out there and stuff like that. So I could, it's kind of weird, after I left, seeing that. But yeah, no, it's been pretty much here we have, I know in Michigan, they, when they cordon off aisles and only let so many people into an aisle at the store. Right? Is that what's going on in Michigan?
Well, let's see. We are now required to wear masks on the inside of stores, which is good. And I guess it goes by store to store, but they can only let a certain number of people in. And yes, they do technically have... Well, they don't quarter off aisles, at least in, I don't know, like the D&W and the family fairs that I go to. But
Okay.
but they do have, like, arrows on the floors saying you can only go down the aisle this way, which I actually do try to follow, being the good citizen that I am. But it's one of those things like, shit, I don't want to go around. So I'll just, like, go down that aisle, then turn my cart around.
Yeah, okay, here would be a good way of saying it, actually. I was just thinking about this. Is like, Colorado is a very liberal state, but Colorado Springs is a very conservative city. And so there are regulations here that Colorado, the state, has passed, and those are followed. But beyond that, I feel like there's been a lot of, like, for instance, I went and bought kava earlier today from a kava shop because it was still open. And, that's not like a super essential thing. It's kind of specific. Like, you would expect it to be closed. But, like, I do feel like there is this mentality where I'm at that, a lot of conservatives, I think, haven't treated it that seriously. And I feel like my particular city is that way, but our regulations are pretty strong as far as Colorado goes as a whole.
All right, so we talked about city life. We talked about your job, your day job.
Yes.
How about your personal life? Like, do you live in a house or apartment?
Yeah, I live in an apartment with my roommate. We're actually trying to figure out right now. I may be back in Michigan in 6 months, and I may end up getting another place out here. I live with...
Really?
Oh, yeah, because I live with a friend of mine, and then I live with a married couple. And that married couple actually just bought a van and some solar panels, and they're going to go live in the woods. Because they're pretty big hippies like that, and have been, doing research on this for the last couple of years. We got 5 more months on our lease, so they gave us plenty of time, but now me and my other roommate are kind of deciding what we want to do.
So,
I'm sorry, just a second. Hey, please talking. Alright, I'm back.
Alright. Okay, has you and your housemates' personal habits changed, or anything, like, exceedingly drastic?
We've all been stoned pretty much 24/7. I mean, like, that would probably be one thing. We don't have anywhere to... Starbucks has been weirdly legit. One of my roommates works at Starbucks, and they gave him a month off with pay, which, as far as most international conglomerates go, is relatively decent. And then my other roommate cuts hair, and then my third roommate is a painter. So, like, everybody's been pretty much just quarantined here. We've been playing a lot of Cards Against Humanity, watching a lot of movies, and just stuff like that, pretty much. Been the big habit changes.
Okay, I should answer my own question here, but have you done any comedy up there, and honestly, it's been affected by this?
Oh, yeah. I was doing it when I would get the opportunity, just hitting open mics and stuff, because you know how it is. Like, you move across the country and you kind of have to reestablish yourself. And to be honest, like, it's been kind of mind-blowing to me, just the scale of the way things are here, where it is, because Denver is such a huge comedy scene. You'll go to an open mic for 3 or 3.5 hours and get, like, 3 minutes worth of time. And that's, like, a good situation. So, yeah, I've been doing it. I've been kind of pursuing it more as a hobby because I haven't been able to fully, like, throw myself into a whole new scene like that in a way that would get me work like I was getting in Michigan. But, yeah, still definitely been doing it. And, yeah, all of that, I'm sure it's probably the same in Michigan, has been mostly just shut down at this point.
Oh, yeah, I've talked to 2 other comedians about it, Stu McAllister and Garret Elzinga, and it's been pretty interesting seeing their views on it and how it will affect comedy, especially, like, let's say this summer or even in the near future. Like, would comedians even want to do that? like, you know, in a big room like that, or up on a stage with a mic that's constantly being shared? Stuff like that.
I mean, my personal opinion is that anybody who does comedy isn't doing it because it's a practical thing to begin with. So I kind of feel like if you love to do it, you're going to do it anyway. I could say, at least for myself, that those worries certainly wouldn't stop me from performing.
Yeah, would you wear a mask on stage?
If I don't know. I'm of the opinion, I think it's all very serious, and I think that, you know, a lot of these people who aren't taking it seriously are being dumb. So, like, I try to respect all of the rules and everything. But at the same time, I honestly, like, I feel like to a degree, you know, you can control what you can control. And if I'm going to catch it, I'm going to catch it. And if I was required to wear a mask, I probably would. But I've also heard a lot of stuff saying that masks don't actually help. So,
it kind of goes back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back and forth. It's not, you know, it's not proven like, say, bleach or sunlight in your lungs. You know, those, you know, those are, you know, to go will work, definitely.
Yeah. No, yeah, so, like, that's my thing. And I can't imagine, like, if it was a requirement that we wore masks, I would. Otherwise, I would maybe wear one out in public, but take it off when I'm on stage.
All right, and do you know anyone, or has there been any areas of Colorado Springs that have been particularly hit hard by COVID?
I don't know anybody personally, but also, I mean, I'm in a weird situation because I moved out here shortly before all of this happened, so I don't actually know a ton of people out here either, so that's probably not
great timing, by the way. Great timing, by the way.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that's definitely been a big thing where, like, me and all my roommates, like, we moved halfway across the country to, I don't know, experience a change and some different shit, and now we're all just sitting inside of our apartment all the time.
Yeah, I'd say it's been a pretty shitty year so far.
Yeah.
No, we almost had World War III with Iran. Now we got this. And and good old Bernie losing. Now we got Biden versus Trump. Ugh.
Yeah. And that's I mean, it's a weird thing the way the election took such a backseat, you know, with all of this COVID stuff that happened. But, like, yeah, I was super disappointed about. I felt like Bernie winning the election was a Hail Mary for the left, and we really are pretty much out of options otherwise. And I feel like him losing has probably set any sort of serious left-wing movement back probably another 10 or 15 years in this country.
My friend, that's sadly the consequences of living in the darkest timeline.
Yeah, seriously, it feels like that, like the community darkest timeline, totally.
All right, well, two more questions here. You mentioned, honestly, about the protests here in Michigan.
Yes.
God, they've been embarrassing.
Yeah.
Has there been anything like that out in Colorado?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't seen any large-scale protests or anything like that. I mean, in general, I feel like I live in a conservative part of Colorado, but it's a very liberal state, so I wouldn't expect too many quarantine protests. I've definitely seen what you guys have been dealing with out there, and, you know, I definitely think that, I don't know, like, it's insane to me that Flint has been without water for 10 years, and then this is, you know, and obviously it's AstroTurf anyway, so it's not like it's a grassroots movement, but it does suck that that's the big protest out of anything.
Yeah. All right, Scott, final question. It's the biggest one. It's my favorite one I've been asking for this series. You ready for it?
Yes, hit me with it.
All right. Here we go. What are your predictions for the near future of how this pandemic will pan out. Like, how do you envision a post-COVID world?
I mean, I feel like, we're all in uncharted territory, so it'll be interesting to see. I hate to say it, like, I try to stay away from pessimism or nihilism, but I feel like realistically it's probably going to get a lot worse in the short term. That's what I think. I think that you think about how much 9/11 kind of turns the U.S. into a darker, more authoritarian place, and I feel like this is literally like it's 9/11 and it's the '08 banking crisis wrapped into one thing in a lot of ways, as far as the societal ramifications and stuff. So honestly, like I think none of us know. I hope there are worker strikes. I hope there are renter strikes. There have been already, but I hope that they are on a national level to the point where they can't be ignored. But I don't know for a fact that that'll happen. And I think definitely the transfer of wealth that's happened during this time period and the natural authorities of the state tends to always take whenever there's an emergency. Both of those things combined probably don't spell out a lot of great things in the near future.
All right. Oh, did you get your Trump socialist stimulus check?
Do I want to get my what? Oh, yeah, I actually, it's been a goddamn pain in the ass to me. But I'm finally getting it. Their website was having problems, and I didn't even know if I was in their system for weeks. But now I am. They're sending the check to my parents' address in Michigan, and then I am getting it. But it's been a little bit of a hassle or whatever, and I don't have it yet.
Yeah, I got it easy because I have direct deposit and all that shit. But
I have direct deposit too, though. That's the thing.
Really?
I don't know if you've heard about it, but TurboTax, if you used TurboTax, and had them take their fee out of your check, a lot of people were dealing with some sort of a computer glitch having to do with that, and I think I kind of fell into that category.
I'm not too confident with my tax doing skills, so I go to H&R Block for that shit.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot of the times that, their fees are less than the money that you, paying by doing it that way.
Oh, yeah, the fee is fucking awful. But on the other hand, it's like, okay, I know I'm going to do it right, and they're going to take, 30 minutes to do it, so fuck it, just get it done, so I won't get in any trouble.
Hey, real quick, I know you said that was the last question. I just wanted to throw this out there just because it kind of relates to when I was on your podcast before.
In the before time.
Yeah,
in the before time, back when things were good.
Yeah, exactly. BC and AC, I guess. But yeah, no, I had, we had talked a lot about that ANCAP versus ANCOM debate group and kind of all of the random, stupid drama I've had in those groups, and just,
man,
nowadays...
I haven't checked out that group in a minute. Is it, still around?
I've been banned. It is, but I've been banned from it for, a year and a half or 2 years at this point, so it's been quite a while. But me and a lot of OGs, a lot of people who were a part of that original group, started a group ourselves called Transcending Politics, and we've been running that for the last 6 months, and it's kind of, I always feel like with all of those groups, the problem is that the administrators or the moderating team ends up getting angry at something somebody says to them, and then they start banning people, and it just creates this tidal wave, and we have, a very strong pact that, we don't ban anybody or mute anybody unless we all discuss it together, and we've been keeping this insane Thunderdome going for 7 or 8 months at this point.
Oh man, I was in that group, like I said, for a little bit, but as much as I love debating and even trolling and memeing, you know, I have a limit.
Yeah.
You know, because
It's
I'm
exhausting.
yeah, because you know, I'm an actual just like you, I am an actual human being with thoughts and emotions, and you know, not just this soulless meme machine like a lot of them are. So
Yeah, no, totally, and it's definitely like I go on and off with it. I mean, I'm an administrator in the group, and I unfollow it all the time because it can get very draining just dealing with certain personality types. And you end up, you get in an argument with somebody, and then all of a sudden it's 4 hours later, and you're like, I've been sitting here just angrily tapping at my phone now for 4 hours.
yeah, I think the thing that made me leave it was I got into a big thing with a Toronto Proud Boy who, after I made fun of him, like, oh, you triggered Snowflake? He then told me, the only trigger I'm going to press is the shotgun that I'm going to put into your mouth.
Yeah, that sounds like something that would happen in one of those groups.
I know, so it went off from there, and of course he sent me some threatening messages. I was like, okay, I'm done with this group.
Yeah, that's kind of been the philosophy we've had at this group that I've been running, has been no death threats and no doxing. And pretty much other than that, like, we will decline to mute or ban somebody, but I personally will definitely go in there if somebody is being, you know, racist or misogynist or something like that and make fun of them.
All right. I'm glad you're keeping yourself busy during the pandemic in various ways.
Yes. It's nice catching up with you, Garrett.
Yeah, I guess that's the end of this segment. Is there anything you would like to advertise, or is there any way that people can support you if they want, like say a Patreon or a virtual tip jar, anything like that?
No, not at this moment. I've got a couple of things I'm working on. I'm working on another book, and I'm actually with one of my good friends who's an animator. I'm working on a cartoon, but both of these are projects that probably aren't going to be done in the next couple of months. So.
Oh, there we go. I was thinking about this interview earlier, and I just remember the one question I wanted to ask you, and you're an expert on this subject. So I just want your expert opinion. In regards to making a cure or a vaccine for COVID-19, you know, do you believe that adrenochrome could be used at all?
You know, it's funny. I love a lot of conspiracy theories, but I don't remember if we talked about this in the original podcast.
Oh, we did actually. We talked about your novel of the same name.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And it's funny, I believe in a lot of conspiracy theories, to be honest. Or, you know, a decent amount of them, JFK, 9/11, you know, even the moon landing, on a little bit of questioning it. But I did a lot of research for that book, and I don't actually think adrenochrome is a thing.
Well,
or whatever that
the conspiracy guy, actually, I guess next time we do talk, whenever that is, we could go into it. But I would say the conspiracy theories you mentioned are actually realistic. You know, 9/11, JFK, because similar stuff has happened before. But adrenochrome, let's see, what is it? Satanic billionaires drinking children blood to like gain immortality or something.
Yeah, basically. And the thing is, it's like, I'm willing to go up to that line in so many ways, where I'm like, I totally think we know for a fact that billionaires engage in sex trafficking and do weird rituals with kids. Like, we know that. What's Jeffrey Epstein got a temple on his island for, if that stuff isn't happening, you know? But, like,
I do believe some of it's happening, but, well, it's more just for shits and giggles. Like, they're not actually believing they're summoning the devil. Or,
yeah, I think it's actually, more than anything, I think it's a blackmail scheme, essentially. I think it's, you know, when you enter a gang, you like, sometimes they'll make you commit a crime or something like that, so that you are now part of now you're all complicit or whatever.
Yeah.
And I kind of...
Oh, sorry, continue.
Oh, yeah, no. I was just going to say, but, like, I think that, like, you know, when you start getting to Epstein and all that, he's got so many CIA and Mossad connections, and, you know, even his wife was MI5 agent at one point, and her dad was, like, a super famous MI5 agent.
Have you considered the possibility that Jeffrey Epstein was, in fact, the very first victim of COVID-19?
I've not considered that one.
Hey, it could be, man. That's probably how New York has become the land of the dead now. Jeffrey Epstein died of it, and
with those thin-ass bed sheets.
Yep, he found out he had it, and he thought that if he killed himself, he would stop it from spreading, but it just didn't happen, and now look where we are.
One last altruistic moment from Jeffrey Epstein.
Yep, Jeffrey Epstein, the hero we never knew.
Right.
Okay, dude, I think we're done with this one.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right, man, it was great.
Fun doing this.
Yeah, it was great talking with you tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to call me up at these different hours.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, take care of yourself, man. And if you ever come back to Michigan to visit or to stay or whatever, if you got time, you know, I'd love to have you on again.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. I love to be on again. I'll keep that in mind.
All right, comedian Scott Ryan. Have a good night, dude. Take care of yourself.
Yep. See you later, Garrett.
Yep, bye.
Hi, I'm Tara. Good night. The song is called Letters from Corporate. Hope you enjoy. Let me start by saying how proud of this group we are, and these new cameras that we've installed let us see you from afar. I'm sure you all have questions and fears about COVID-19. Your coworkers are dropping like flies and the boss has been gone for a week. We've been deemed essential, got new members of the team, and I'm sure you're all excited to find out what that means. Cause essential's how we say expendable, it just means acceptable loss. So die on your feet or die in the street for your bank, your landlord, your boss. And remember, we brought you all the other perks and benefits that you enjoy. Like we took away your pension and gave you a 401k, so you know the joy of watching our boys gamble your futures away. We took your vacation and all of your sick days too, but once a month we buy shitty pizza and 2 liters of Mountain Dew. We left the overtime work, but took the overtime pay. But what did we do? We made sure that you had gift cards on Christmas Day. We shredded your healthcare so you would work through the hurt. You better bet we'll bury you in debt before we put you in the dirt. Cause essential's how we say expendable, it just means acceptable loss. So die on your feet or die in the street for your bank, your landlord, your boss. I know we took all the carrots and left you nothing but sticks, but here pretty soon we'll sterilize goods, so don't worry, you won't get us sick. Just know that we're here for you in spirit, if not in the flesh. Can you imagine if we came in? Trust us, it's all for the best. Before you start grumbling and talking crazy about strikes, just know that we will call the police and we'll also call ICE. So here are the keys and codes. Lock up if you're not dead, and while we're gone you'll need to work on it. Don't let it go to your head, or cause essential's how we say expendable, it just means acceptable loss. So die on your feet or die in the street for your
And we are recording the final guest of this compilation podcast. Folks, welcome author Jim Zoetewey, author of Legion of Nothing. Jim, thanks for being on, man.
Sure. Glad to be here.
And I would like to apologize first because when I looked up on my messenger when I originally asked if you wanted to be on to get your number, I noticed that I did it back on April 12th, so it's like, oh shit, it's been nearly a month.
Yeah, I hadn't forgotten. I was just going like, well, it's still going. So.
Yeah, I have to say, like I said, you are the last guest I am contacting, and yeah, it's been a pretty wild and educational experience doing podcasts this way.
Yeah, I imagine, learning how to do some things with podcasts. Yeah, it's interesting. I've ended up doing interviews with people, and I've ended up doing podcasts with multiple people, and you kind of have to figure out, okay, well, what can I do with the equipment that I have, which is most definitely, as a general rule, and certainly in my case, not professional level equipment. And so you end up going with and doing things that, maybe a professional audio engineer would not choose to do ever, but some things just work in the end, and that's good enough.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm banging on, actually. My whole career, in fact, has been banging on it, working out in the end. All right, Jim. As I said in my message to you, I would like to talk to you about your life under the COVID-19 pandemic that's been going on.
Let's see. Yeah, so, for the first month and a half or so, I worked at my job basically 40 hours a week, which was pretty crazy and pretty interesting. Because when you do technical support, what that means is that when everybody has to go home, you've got to figure out how to make them productive from working at home. And so it's like, okay, well, let's set up the audio stuff for everybody so that WebEx meetings will work in theory for everyone, and also maybe even other, systems. And by the way, how are we going to get people access to that one database that only works if you're inside the office? That's an interesting challenge.
All right. Well, let's start at the beginning here. We already kind of know when the pandemic really started hitting here in America, but was there a moment when you realized that this pandemic was not going to turn out well, like an oh shit moment?
I kind of have always basically been following the people in the news, the epidemiologists and so on, and I was kind of going like, this is not looking good pretty much from the beginning. But I've always found science interesting, and so basically as soon as people started talking about, okay, we're going to have to send people home and work from home, I'm like, oh yeah, kind of like with smallpox and swine flu and all kinds of other things from our past, because throughout most of human history there have been big diseases where you've done stuff like quarantined whole cities and prevented people from interacting with others. It's been kind of this thing that has happened for years upon years, as sometimes in a much worse way than now. You think about the Black Plague, or for that matter, coming back to smallpox. That had like a 30% death rate, and and that just kind of went through all of humanity's history, through very much of it anyway, just kind of randomly showing up and killing off a whole lot of people and then moving on to the next place. So, I mean, we've at least I don't know how early that was, but definitely during the Middle Ages and before. I mean, that was, and that disease, we completely eradicated it, except for frozen samples, which I'm told still exist.
And they're melting, and they're melting too, so that's going to be fun.
Hopefully, people have debated as to whether or not to destroy them, because on the one hand, you've got this genetic diversity that in some ways you kind of want to keep, just because you never know, you might need it later. But then on the other hand, keeping it also means that at some point, some brilliant person, and I put brilliant in quotes, might decide, hey, this could be an awesome weapon against our enemies. And at that point, you just go like, no, actually, this could be an awesome, unfortunate occurrence for the entire world.
Yeah,
but
you'll have it'll be like in Lord of the Rings. You'll have one person say, "Destroy it now." Then the other guy looking at it, he's like, "No," like the One Ring.
Yeah, very much. I mean. The thing is, though, I mean, back in the 90s, people were talking about destroying this stuff, and as yet, no one has actually pulled the plug. So, I mean, I'm kind of torn, because I end up going like, yeah, in the future, we may well be able to actually be able to use this for actual good purposes. And so I kind of like the idea of at least preserving the use of such a thing, so that, I mean, honestly, you can modify stuff genetically and possibly get something and possibly use it for a good reason, in a way that actually helps people. If you can get smallpox if you can get something out of smallpox that, like, for example, allows you to infect someone with it and get rid of sickle cell anemia.
I have to say, I really appreciate your semi-optimistic, pro-con approach to this.
Well, I mean, I don't know. My interest has always been, one way or another, in the sciences. So I tend to regard everything as potential tools.
All right. Well, let's get on to your personal life here. Like many a writer, including yours truly, not only do we write, but we have day jobs.
Yeah,
So, what is your day job? You don't have to mention company name or anything.
Right. I mean, basically throughout my career, I have kind of alternated between doing web development and system administration / technical support of one kind or another. And right now, for the last, 9 years, it's been mostly system administration / technical support. So, I work at a company and basically help keep things running behind the scenes. Except, at this precise moment, I am furloughed from that company because the company is a tech company and people aren't buying services and or computers and so on during this. I know that there are clients who are, but for the most part, it's a business slowdown.
Did this just happen recently?
It happened at the beginning of May. So, in less than 2 weeks, but now a little bit more than one.
Okay, what was the environment like, leading up to your furlough?
Well, here's the thing. I know that for the company, it was, definite business slowdown. Prior to that, everything was fine, of course. But, for IT, as soon as you send a whole lot of people home, guess what? You've got to change everything for them. So everyone's got to have home offices. We're not sending equipment home with them other than the bare minimum, but basically you've got to have everything work from your computer so that you can communicate with people. And we have an infrastructure for it. And honestly, the cool thing for part of our company is that most people work out of their house anyway. But for about half of the company, that is not true. And so you've got to figure out how to make that work for the support staff, as well as the salespeople, who obviously are, out of the office a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, that was basic. So I was quite busy up until basically the last week or so, at which point then suddenly, oh yeah, we have gotten over that hump of making things work for people outside of the office. And, I mean, I knew actually, because our company was pretty proactive about it. You know, they were basically saying, hey, we're going to put people on furlough as soon as things started to go the way they were. And so, I mean, I never felt shocked. I was going like, oh, all right, I wonder if that applies to me. Chances are good. And
lo and behold.
Yeah. I mean, see, the cool thing about the company I work for is that they are pretty open about a lot of things, pretty open about the numbers and how things are working and what's got to change, and basically what plans they have to handle the problem. There's a lot of stuff to like, actually, even though I also go, oh, this is hugely inconvenient and a little bit scary. So,
all right, and yeah, I'm sorry. I'm actually honestly, I'm familiar with layoffs and firings. Not so much about furloughs, though. What is that exactly?
Well, basically, for me, what it means is I still have health care with the company, and they are still putting money in for that. And it basically means that as of May 1, I was off and not allowed to work, even though I could keep my company equipment at home that I had, didn't have to turn it in. And then on May 31st, officially, that will be the last day I'm off of work, depending on, market situations. And if I'm fortunate, on March 31, I go back to work.
So there is a possibility that this could get extended, though.
Oh, yeah, no, without doubt. I mean, this whole thing is crazy. So, I mean, I go like simultaneously, I'm going like, well, they don't intend to lay me off. What they do intend to do, however, is keep the bottom line as decent as possible.
All right, so you've kept your health insurance. How about pay?
Well, I mean, that's what unemployment is for.
Oh, so you have gone through that system.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, it worked pretty well. Had no issues. My wife, oddly enough, actually permanently had her position just annihilated because yeah, that's a little scary. For her, it was a little bit more complicated. On the other hand, it's also true that for her, 2 weeks into it, she's already got a second interview for a job that she's got a good chance of getting.
Oh, that's good.
It is, and I mean, yeah.
Considering the times.
Yeah, it is, but I mean, my wife is in social work, and specifically medical social work. So, I mean, the economy definitely takes a hit in all areas, medical social work in this current environment is still kind of moving.
Booming, you could say?
Not so much booming, because, I mean, it's really crazy, because in medicine right now, I mean, you've got the simultaneous things are a little bit overworked in the area of dealing with COVID-19, but at the same time, all those other regular surgeries and so on, those have been put off. Why? Because, I mean, you don't want to have people who have a surgery coming into the hospital and potentially getting COVID-19,
Mm-hmm.
And you also don't want to tie up your resources with that. But the problem is, if you cancel all those other surgeries or other things that, well, then potentially what also happens? Well, also, you sometimes end up laying off hospital staff because all the people who normally work on that other stuff, they aren't all taken up by COVID-19. So it's a kind of a weird situation where medicine is simultaneously very busy and also simultaneously, just like the rest of us, on furlough or laid off or whatever.
All right. Well, we talked about your your job lives. Yeah, let's call it that, job lives. How about your personal life? Has there been any significant personal habits that have changed, or anything around your vicinity that has changed since the pandemic started?
Well, honestly, I've kind of gone back onto the college schedule that I have, which is, as a person, I am prone to staying up late and getting up late. So,
don't I know that, fellow writer? Don't I know that?
So the hazard of that is, I wake up in the morning and I'm going like, oh, look, it's 9:30. Huh. And then I'm going like, hey, why don't I just take a look online and find out what's going on? And then I look up and it's like, ooh, 11 o'clock. And maybe I should do something about this. But then that night at about 2 a.m., I'm thinking, wow, I'm still up. Why am I staying up this late? And at that point, I go, I guess I'd better go to bed. And then the next morning, I wake up, and it's around 9:30.
I've had something similar, especially last night. 1 in the morning, I thought the same thing, but then I was scrolling through Netflix, and I realized that they have all 3 Back to the Future movies on there.
Oh.
And it dawned on me that I don't think I've ever seen all 3, so last night I started on the first one, tonight's going to be the second, tomorrow the third. There's my weekend. There's my weekend.
Well, to screw up your life a little bit more, I don't know if you've ever heard of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, yeah, that's coming on there this month, too.
Yeah, on the 15th of May.
Yep.
So, yeah, that could take you a few more days.
Oh, yeah, I also have to finish marathoning Street Sharks on YouTube. They have the entire series on there.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, there's a part of me that's tempted to actually rewatch Babylon 5, which it's a TV show that I really loved, actually. The first season, not so great. The last season, but, I mean, basically, 2 through 4 are amazing.
Yeah, basically, besides random movies like Back to the Future, I've just been doing the whole documentary thing. And,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, just anime and terrible 80s and 90s cartoons.
Yeah, see, I mean, I haven't been watching a lot of things, actually, but I as someone who has had a long-term interest in, I mean, fantasy, I've been rereading a few fantasy series and science fiction series that I've liked, and also as someone who, again, has been highly involved with, comic books and role-playing games, I've been doing stuff that's totally unrelated to anything, like just kind of working on stuff for like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign that I'm planning on running, which is, I mean, in all honesty, I kind of started out this furlough with the plan to, all right, get really pushing myself on the 3rd novel that I'm doing, which, I mean, I am working on, but not to the extent that I wanted. And also, in a totally ideal world, I was thinking, okay, maybe I should get back into doing some regular PHP and website programming and bring myself back up to speed on various things like jQuery and also on writing apps for phones. But I haven't really done much of that. I also fully intended to do like more bass guitar practice. But so far, and granted, it's only really been 1 week, I haven't done as much of that as I wanted. So I'm going to just tell myself, okay, so for the next 3 weeks of this furlough, I will push myself maybe to get more of the productive things done that I'd kind of hope to do while being screwed over by the economy.
I would say I'm somewhat in a similar position with my writing. The first when it like really hit the U.S. in like mid-March, I just fell into a huge depression. Like, couldn't really do anything but like, well, work and sit in a ball and cry, pretty much.
Right.
But then I slowly got out of it, and yeah, I'm writing and I'm working on stuff related to it. Like, either today or tomorrow, I'm gonna be saying my illustrator the plans for the next Godin book cover. But but man, it's been slow, and whenever I shame myself for like, you should be writing, you should be doing this, you should be creating that, I remind myself that I'm living in the middle of a biblical plague, that I should take it easy a little bit.
Yep. No, I mean, it totally makes sense. It's one of those things where it's like, it's not really, honestly, for me, it's not really conducive to writing, to be in a house with 3 other people, plus my dog, all of whom have their own lives and things that they would really like to be doing instead of what is going on. I mean, I had to drive up and get my daughter from U of M and drive her back, and she had to complete her coursework in our house instead of in the dorms.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, my other daughter is like a senior in high school, and she has basically been kind of missing all those senior year things. And there will be a graduation online. And I mean, there will be an actual ceremony, I think maybe in August, but they're going to do an online thing around the time of the plan for graduation. And I mean, it's like all this kind of stuff where you're just like, everybody's life is put on hold, and guess what? Everybody has to come to the house and stay home for the next X number of months. And meanwhile, then my dog is just like, you're home all the time. Why aren't you playing with me all the time?
That's one of the many memes out there that dogs are finally happy. I think there was one that showed like 2 opposing opinion pieces, one by a cat, one by a dog. And like the dog's like, people should stay in more. Cats, it's time to return to work.
Yeah, I think I saw something like that. Probably not the same thing, but yeah, similar sort of sentiments. Yeah, our cats though are also, I think, overall, okay with us being home as well, though. It's one of those things where cats really like people more than they get the reputation for.
More than they let on.
Yeah, and I mean, and want to be near you, sometimes to the point of it's like, I'm sitting, I'm trying to write on my laptop, my cat is walking up, sniffing the thing I'm drinking, walking past the laptop between me and the screen, possibly walking on the mouse pad, which has bad effects in terms of highlighting stuff and or possibly other things. It's just like,
butthole in the face. undo.
Yeah. I mean, at least with writing, it's not like with computer code where it's like, oh, by the way, your cat has just introduced 2 or 3 bugs that you're going to find out about and have no idea why someone put that totally extraneous Z or B in the middle of everything for no good reason.
One of your avid readers reads the latest chapter of Legion of Nothing, and it's like, this is taking a different direction than what I imagined.
Yeah, well, in that case, it'd be more like, why does it just randomly say in the middle of the sentence? It's like, well, blame my cat.
The character is screaming in computer code, I guess?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, oh boy. I mean, It's kind of not a good situation for writing. Just if only because what I really need to write is quiet and lack of interruption and animals and people all stuck in not a massive house by any means. That is kind of lack of interruption is not an easy thing to arrange at that point.
Yeah, it also helps not having a economic and medical apocalypse looming over you seemingly all the time.
Right, this is also true. And also, of course, beyond that in the background is the occasional my wife having a job interview, which you just kind of go like, okay, I will try not to walk through that room right now. Also, I will try not to flush the toilet mid-interview because they might hear it.
Oh, one of my favorite podcasts is called Street Fight Radio, and comedic leftist socialist podcast. They mostly focus on issues that are more, working man related, more down to earth. And they, I guess apparently some employers are using Zoom interviews, well, obviously to interview people, but they're using they're putting in consideration the background and shit to determine whether they want to interview you or not.
Oh, jeez.
So, I don't know, if you have, a One Direction poster behind you, they'll take that into consideration. Or if they hear, a flushing toilet.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things where you just go okay. I mean, you can't really control that is the problem, except to the limited degree that you go okay, I will take this interview in the most neutral spot in my room, and I'm going to stand, in front of a blank wall. And
yeah, it's sorry, sir, we really like your resume, you seem like a great person, but we noticed in the background that you had what looks like an original poster of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. And
this means you have poor taste.
And I have to
you here.
Yeah, I have to say, as a Marvel fanboy, I am not a big fan of that movie. So we cannot hire you for this position you're clearly qualified for.
One time, here's an actual thing that happened to me. I ended up, getting hired by a .com at one point, and I was working out of my house for them, which is fine because I've been working out of my house totally freelance. Period for that. Prior to that. And so working out of my house is fine, but my actual for real job interview happened entirely by phone, which was good because I hadn't known when they were going to call. The guy wanted to, just call me, and then, presumably if necessary, we'd set up another interview time. But here's the thing. I had kind of defaulted to the Jim is... to the when there's nothing else going on in Jim's life schedule, which means getting up at 9:30. Mm-hmm. And so at the moment that the guy called, I was literally naked, and and I was kind of at the just about to step into the shower, and just happened to hear my cell phone ringing and got that, and so I'm like, okay, the guy's like, oh, are you in the middle of anything? We can reschedule the interview for another time. But I'm thinking, I don't want to risk not getting the interview, So I did that entire interview completely naked and sitting on the stairs in my house. So that was interesting.
So did you get it?
Yeah, I did get the job. I mean,
awesome.
And I didn't ever really tell my employer exactly how that ever all went down.
That's a good factoid to put on a podcast like this, but I would leave that off your LinkedIn page.
Ducks interviews naked. Yeah, that would be a great one.
All right, Jim. Final question here. It's been my favorite question to ask in this entire series. So, you ready for this one?
I guess we'll find out.
All right, Jim. Do you have any predictions for the near future? Or should I say how a post-COVID life will look like?
Well, it depends on how far we go. I mean, basically, at the point that we have a vaccine, one that actually works, I think it'll look an awful lot like it did prior. But for the short term, I would kind of tend to bet that we're going to be working on a kind of mixed lifestyle where a whole lot of people are working out of their houses and kind of a minimal number of people are going into offices, but also one where stuff is open and people are wearing masks, and you may not have a whole lot of open dining rooms for restaurants, but at the same time, there will be restaurants open. You know, it's kind of that's kind of what I think this looks like if we go for the long term. Now, of course, that assumes that things basically kind of work out. And that's one of those things where, not to get too political, but the reality of things is that I keep on going like, well, on the one hand, you've got some competent people in government. You've also got some really, really clueless people in government. And so, you know, one kind of hopes that the competent people will mostly overall be the ones making policy. But unfortunately, there's that's not always the case. And anyway.
Well, I agree with you on the mask part. You know, I can see that going throughout the rest of the year into next year.
Yeah.
Restaurants and smaller venues and even movie theaters, I would see requiring to wear them and maybe cutting it to like half capacity for, you know, social distancing.
Right. Well, and the scary thing about that one for business owners is you need a certain number of people to come in to make it worth being open in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine going to a movie theater and they only sell half the tickets that could fill up said theater?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or similarly, going to a restaurant and then basically it's like, okay, well, how far away from each table do you have to make the other tables? Because, you know, sure, maybe my family goes in and we can all be within, 2 feet of each other because, I mean, if we haven't passed on a virus just being in the same house,
yeah.
it's kind of too late at this point. But on the other hand, like the server and the people at the other tables, how many tables do you get to fit in a restaurant?
Yeah,
I don't know.
And the third one is, I can see like bars or mid-sized venues, like let's say the Pyramid Scheme opening, but larger venues like Van Andel Arena or Deltaplex, or even large summer festivals. Yeah, I don't see those happening.
Right, exactly. That's all going to be a big challenge, and I keep on going. I can imagine in some situations that there are things that maybe that something can be worked out. Maybe people will come up with a set of rules essentially that minimize the percentage of transmission while maximizing people to the point that it's affordable to do some of these things. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know that, my wife and I often in the summer go to Grand Rapids Symphony's Picnic Pops, where basically they have the Grand Rapids Symphony playing and everyone goes to Cannonsburg and sits, on the hills.
Oh, yeah. I almost attended one of those. I think
right.
Ben Folds was going to be performing at one.
Oh, wow, yeah, that would have been cool. But yeah, I mean, that kind of thing, I think about that and go, well, that could almost work. But the thing is, everyone has to go through the same lines. So at that point, you're going like, yeah, having a bunch of people line up outside is not any better than inside. Except that I suppose with something like Picnic Pops, you'd at least have the space to spread people out every 6 feet.
Well, that one's a little bit more calm, like Irish on Ionia, which they decided to reschedule for August, I think. I don't see that happening at all. No way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's totally different for something like Blues on the Mall. It's totally different for something like some metal concert where you can have a bunch of people standing at the front dancing and or screaming. Not going to work too well.
Yeah, especially these big venues that bring in, like, the big artists, like Elton John, for example. You think he would want to play for, like, Van Andel Arena that's only half filled?
Right. Well, and beyond that, actually, I mean, as much as overall cases are going down in Michigan in theory, in Kent County they're going up. Still are. I don't know how long that's going to continue. And I mean, basically, I tend to wonder to what degree the areas that are taking things less seriously than others will have things slow down. Because, I mean, it's like one of those weird little things about this, and not too weird if you care about politics and think about partisan division at all, is that a whole lot of states that tend to vote blue are not open, so to speak, are still under lockdown. But a whole lot of states that tend to mostly vote for Republicans are still kind of open for business and are out of lockdown. And I mean, in some cases that totally makes sense because it's one of those deals where, yeah, guess what? It tends to vote Republican. It is also mostly rural. So people, you could argue, are self-isolating most of the time unintentionally, and whereas by contrast, a lot of the more democratic states tend to be more urban. So, I mean, it really makes a much bigger difference to do lockdown. But the thing is, if on the other hand, you have all these mostly rural states, and guess what? People aren't taking it seriously, then, you end up having a whole lot of places and a whole lot of people who could potentially get sick. And also, because it's more rural, not necessarily have the necessary amount of health care to deal with it.
Yep.
Just lower resources. And that's not a good thing at all.
All right, Jim. Well, that's all I want to talk to you today, man.
Sure. A whole lot of depressing stuff.
Oh, man. It's such a rabbit hole, and especially... It's such a rabbit hole, and it's just so insane that, God, we could go on forever talking about it.
Right. Yeah, well, the thing I keep on telling myself is, well, on the other hand, still a whole lot better than the bubonic plague.
Setting a high bar there, aren't you?
I really like low bars. That means you can jump over them.
All right. Okay, Jim, promo time quickly. Anything you would like to plug, like websites, or if anyone wants to support you, like, do you have a virtual tip jar or Patreon or anything?
Well, kind of yes to all of the above. So if you go to legionofnothing.com, you will find my online serial, which is updated every Monday and Thursday, and more often than not written the night before. Also, you will find on Amazon, if you just go type in Legion of Nothing, you'll find a couple books in that series. Hopefully, in an ideal world, maybe a third. Will be nearly ready by the end of the month. And also, let's see, what else can I say? Yeah, if you do go to my website, there is both a link to PayPal and also a Patreon link. So if you feel the urge to do either of those things after reading and liking my work, I'll be happy to accept anything you choose to give.
Oh, man, that reminds me. One very last question about Legion of Nothing. Since it's been some time since you and I talked previously, Is Legion of Nothing, does it take place in real time?
Oh, I wish. No, I mean, here's the funny thing. At one point I thought, well, maybe can I do that? And then I was like, no, this is not going to happen. I mean, by definition, by having superpowers, it's going to be an alternate universe from ours. And I probably will never hit what am I going to do with diseases in this story? Because, I mean, that would be interesting. But I kind of feel like there's... The Legion of Nothing series is at this point headed toward the last 2 or 3 books out of the entire 12, 13 book series. And so introducing a pandemic into the story at this point just wouldn't work very well.
Oh, okay.
So that said, I do keep on looking at this and going like, as much as, I kind of feel like there's going to be about a dozen, hundreds, maybe thousands of disease-related books heading to publishers in the next 2 to 3 years. There is still the possibility I might want to do something with this.
One of my writer friends on Facebook made a post, I think back in April, that said, "Hey publishers, you ready to reject a bunch of stories and novels inspired by COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be millions of them. I mean, maybe not millions, but just way too many.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet.
The reason I asked you that question, too, is because one of my favorite comic series, you may have heard of it. It's called Savage Dragon by Eric Larson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it takes place in real time, and I guess the next issue or two are going to reference the pandemic. And one of the previews they showed was the main character and his family using Zoom to talk to another superhero.
Right, well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, there are parts of me that kind of want to use it in the sense of like, oh, can you imagine if you're like fighting a supervillain and they've got a terrible cough in this environment, and you just keep on thinking as you punch them and as they breathe on you, am I going to get sick? I mean, that's just like a perfect kind of Spider-Man sort of comic, if nothing else.
I was actually thinking Batman, a Scarecrow story where he gets hit and he thinks he has COVID.
Oh, man.
Or, yeah, you could do that with Batman with Mysterio.
Yeah,
Spider-Man thinks everyone has COVID around him.
Well, I mean, I also think, there is actually a fairly famous Spider-Man comic where the guy has, I think Peter Parker either has a really nasty cold or the flu or something, and it's just, he just has to deal with that. Because, I mean, the whole thing with Spider-Man is just these horrible, annoying humiliations that keep on going on in the background. Just that, the kind of stuff that you wouldn't do to Batman, that you would just totally do to Peter Parker because it's funny and everyone kind of enjoys watching him suffer. Whereas with Batman, it's got more of that Pulp Fiction sort of feel to it as a general rule.
Yeah.
And so,
well, Batman would keep going if he had COVID. It'd be like Nightfall, but with a ventilator.
Yeah, I mean, it would. I mean, right. I mean, you kind of, with Batman, you kind of have the whole tough guy sort of thing. Whereas with Spider-Man, it's like, no. You kind of expect to watch him pull out a package of tissues and blow his nose mid-fight.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, the Avengers don't social distance, so they all catch it. Except Wolverine and Deadpool, because they're fantastic healing factors.
Yeah, right.
There you go. You listening, Marvel editors? I just gave you a good storyline idea. All right, Jim. Jim Zoetewey, author of Legion of Nothing. Thank you for taking time to talk with me today, man.
Sure, no problem.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll talk again soon under much less apocalyptic circumstances.
Yeah, well, and we'll all have material that maybe we can use subtly without referencing diseases.
Yeah. Yeah, there will be better days ahead that we can geek out on. All right, Jim. Have a good day, brother. Take care of yourself, okay?
Yeah, you too. Don't get sick, or at least don't get it too bad.
Oh, good God. My anxiety is now just blown up. All right, dude. Have a good day. Thanks for talking.
You bet.
All right, bye.
Bye.
God has some wicked ways for communication, but I run a black crusade of doubt and fear against him. He named this virus after the beer I drink with lime. He's gonna make cilantro poisonous and everyone with taste will die. Well, I can't decide if God is still alive or if everything's just meaningless, and I should be glad to be right. Well, either way, I'm losing this silly war I fly. Will I burn in hell forever or forever rot and die? Chilly winds outside blow snowflakes in my eyes. This sore throat makes me think only the thickest will survive. So I will fill my apartment with sugar and toilet paper. With empty grocery store shelves we will fight our own creator. Well, I can't decide if God is still alive or if everything's just meaningless, and I should be glad to be right. Well, either way, I'm losing this pathetic war I fly. Will I burn in hell forever or forever rot and die? Everyone around me seems to be affected. The last time I was this scared, Trump got elected. If we don't die from this disease, we'll die from our own greed. Keep your friends close, especially if you need Mars bars, jelly beans. We will survive on gumball machines. Forget climate change now that the stock market's down. I will paint my face with lipstick until I look like a clown. I can't decide if God is still alive or if everything's just meaningless, and I should be glad to be right. Well, either way, I'm losing this pointless war I fly. Will I burn in hell forever or forever rot and die? Well, I can't decide if God is still alive or if everything's just meaningless, and I should be glad to be right. Well, either way, I'm losing this pathetic war I fly. Will I burn in hell forever or forever rot and die? Well, I can't decide if God is still alive or if everything's just meaningless, and I should be glad to be right. Well, either way, I'm losing this pathetic war I fly. Will I burn in hell forever or forever rot and die? Will I burn in hell forever or forever rot and die? Will I burn in hell forever or forever rot and die?
Yay, everyone. We did it. We have gone through part 2 of the COVID life. Special episode of the Garret Schuelke podcast. Thanks again to Robert Dean, Scott Ryan, and Jim Zoetewey for taking time to talk to me. And as well as John Withy, Stu McAllister, and Garrett Elzinga. Yeah, thanks for taking time to out your various types of schedules during this pandemic to talk to me. It was great having you all back on, and I sincerely hope that we can speak again, hopefully under better circumstances. And thanks again to all the bands who allowed me to use their music on these podcasts. They were great. Everyone should check out their work. Please support them. And when I was thinking of how to end this podcast, I really was thinking about doing an epic Jerry Springerish monologue. But yeah, honestly, I don't know what to say that hasn't already been said about it. Except for, let's see. What can I say? Oh, well, everything's kind of fucked still. I mean, here in Michigan, this upcoming Memorial Day weekend, everything downstate is still closed, but they're reopening stuff like bars and restaurants and that up north, which I really kind of wish they would wait until next weekend, since well, it's a holiday weekend, so every shithead, every chud is going to be up there. I mean, I'm going to be up there, but for vastly different reasons than to, you know, be a fucking idiot and be in large groups of people. That'll that'll probably be on our podcast. I'll probably talk about that soon. But, yeah, everything's fucked right now, so, well, I guess just take care of each other, love each other from afar, but, yeah, treat people like how you want to be treated, because, boy howdy, it has been a very hard since this thing really hit America in, mid-March, I believe. Well, that's all I really have to say, folks. Thanks for listening, and, well, I'll see you around. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bathroom with no window, mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? The undisputed belle of the ball. Walking through the rain, cause the train's on strike, but they have the gall to label you essential against all common sense. Now we sit on the fence waiting for someone just like me to take the fall. Did you think about the money men imitation Don Draper sending out delivery for toilet paper? No contract means no consent about the wiping of a rich man's arse. From the cheap part of town to this human zoo, a house made for seven that accommodates two in splendid desolation. Equality's a farce. And there's a murmur from the depths of hell, grows louder every day. The economy is paralyzed, the bill arrives and there's no one there to pay. Well, we'll remember next election who our friends are. Grease palms by example, champagne on standby. But in case you've forgotten, the motto is never too late to be left at the bottom when we hold all the cards. Did you listen to the laughs, the cheers, the profiteers? Bank balances embellished with an extra zero. Nothing but a number and a pay slip given in the name of the minimum wage. Or the words of wisdom they spoke. Better to be sick and working than be poor and broke. What's the point in growing up? It's time to act your age. Don't turn to the clergy. Don't turn to organized religion when the church door has been closed with lock and key. If you're searching for solace in your fellow human, now's the time to drop the 10-pound note for a shot of solidarity. Weights and measures, weekend pleasures, hidden treasures. It's been too long. Interest rates mounting, advice from accounting, crying and shouting. It's been too long, far too long. Too long, far too long. Did you imitate Cain and Abel to put food on the table? Starting at the grave and ending at the cradle stable. Living at the price of the thousands falling through the cracks. Paying off the jury, blood, sweat and tears. Pound signs gleaming in the eyes of the overseers. Feel the threat of the whip across your back. There's nothing left to worry, nothing left to choose. There's nothing when all's said and done. There's nothing left to lose. Rotten to the core, riven by disease, learning how to walk again from a life lived on my knees.